What was the biggest lesson that dogs taught you?
Oh, I don't think I've learned it properly. And that is to not think about the way you once were, and not complain that I can't do this any longer because I'm now older or I'm ill, but just take everything a day at a time. Dogs are wonderful role models for getting on with life. If you lose a hind leg, well, you just get on with life. You know, yeah. So my leg's been amputated. I'm just
keep complaining.
Yeah, never complain. I just don't think there are better role models than dogs for showing how you cope with life.
Okay. In the beginning of your career, did you aspire all the achievements that you had, or they just appeared during the time?
When I graduated in veterinary medicine, some of the faculty at the Ontario Veterinary College had become interested in what I was going to do when I graduated. And they were interested in my remaining in the academic environment. Okay. And in fact, that's how they organized, one of them organized the place at the zoo in London. And for some time I liked the idea of returning to an academic life and teaching in a veterinary school. And presumptuously or pretentiously, I thought I'd probably be good at teaching because I knew what was wrong with the way my lecturers taught me. They didn't communicate well. And I thought I could probably communicate with students better than they could. And so I'd probably be helping students in a more practical way. So I thought that academics might be quite interesting. A number of my friends in Britain are at the veterinary schools, and they would tell me the horror stories of what was happening in academic institutions where you spend all your time in committees and doing paperwork rather than doing what you want to do. And I gradually got rid of the idea of wanting to work in some large organization of that sort, and I much prefer the idea of being my own boss.
Okay.
So that was the only area where I thought early on that I might go in a different direction.
Okay, last one. After all of this, what is going to be your next step?
I don't think I've planned any steps.
No.
With regard to books, basically everything I know I've put down in the type of books that I've written, Caring for Your Dog, and so on. So there's nothing new there. And when I write a book, I spend most of my time now on Medline, discovering things I didn't know to put into the books. So I don't plan to write any more of the types of books that I've done. The encyclopedias cover all the cat and dog breeds and care and history. The caring for books cover that. The training books cover training. There's a book coming out next year that gives a lot more of the more recently discovered history of the dog. The mitochondrial DNA research that shows exactly where the dog first domesticated itself and which breeds are the truly ancient breeds and which are the modern ones. So for example, the Shih Tzu and the Lhasa Apso turn out to be truly ancient breeds, much more closely related to the wolf than, let's say, the German Shepherd dog, which is a very modern breed. So that type of interesting genetics, DNA work, will go into a book that's published next year.
Okay.
I wrote it in early 2008, so it'll be ancient history by the time it's published. But I found it really interesting, the mitochondrial DNA work that's going on. And in fact, I just had an email when I got back from Canada from my publisher who wants to get together with me because for a number of years, publishers have wanted me to write about what it was like to be a small animal vet during the dramatic change in small animal veterinary medicine that took place in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. In the 1960s, most small animal vets at university, we had studied mostly agricultural animals. There was very little studying of dogs and none of cats. We never, I can't remember even seeing a cat at university. Yeah. So we were trained more in agricultural medicine, but starting in the late 60s and 70s, the dog and cat became more important. And by the 80s, in Northern Europe and the United States and Canada, part of North America, companion animals had overwhelmingly become the most important species. And now in all of North America, including Mexico, I saw what the Mexican schools teach, and companion animals is the predominant part of the curriculum in Mexico as well. So there was this dramatic shift. When I studied, it was all men, and they came from farms. They didn't come from cities, and it gradually shifted to people from cities, and the profession shifted over to women. And when the profession shifted over to women, it became a caring profession. And I cannot honestly say we were a caring profession when it was men off farms who were the veterinarians. So my publisher, or publishers, have been interested in my writing it'll be really novels, because I never kept notes. I never kept good diaries. I can remember some stories. Some stories about what it was like to be a city vet in a big city in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. In a similar sense to books that were written by a man named James Herriot, who wrote about what it was like to be a farm vet in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s in Britain. And those were very interesting, enjoyable books that were turned into a television series and films. So if I'm going to do any more writing, it'll probably be fiction based on fact. Okay. And the English term for that is faction. It's facts that you use to create fiction. So there'll be true stories, but you create a fiction out of those true stories.
Okay. Yeah, I hope we have these books in Brazil and they are released.
They might be very British books, because they will be what it was like to be a vet in London. Yeah. So the market for those will be Britain rather than anywhere else. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome.
Daniel Svevo, aqui em Londres, com Bruce Fogle. Obrigado.